Number 31, a transition question. Let's read the text, try to figure out what the logical flow or progression of idea is from sentence to sentence, and then determine what transitional word would make sense to enhance that logical flow. Mountain climbing routes that incorporate metal rungs and cables are known as via ferratas, from the Italian phrase for iron path. As climbing these routes has shifted from a mode of travel to a sporting activity, modern via ferratas are rarely designed to simply reach a summit. Blank, new routes favor recreation over utility, aiming to provide a challenging climb or showcase dramatic scenery. Okay, so overall in this text, the focus is on a change, right? There's a shift from mode of travel to sporting activity, and the way that these modern via ferratas are used as a result are different. How they're designed is different. They're not used to simply reach a summit, which they would be if it was about traveling from point A to point B. There's something more, right? It's something about a sporting activity. And we look at that sentence with the blank, and it's describing these routes as a sporting activity, right? For recreation, right? Provide a challenging climb, showcase dramatic scenery. It's not simply getting from point A to point B, from the bottom of the mountain to the summit. It's about kind of enjoying the experience along the way. So I need a word that emphasizes or amplifies that idea, and seems somewhat contrasty, but we have to be careful with the contrast. I do see multiple choices here that show a kind of contrast, so we have to see what would be the best option. Let's look at additionally. Additionally would be if we're building on a previous point with a new additional point. This is the same point, right? We're not raising an additional point kind of separate from this discussion. This point with the blank in it is supporting, amplifying the previous sentence, not merely kind of an additional point. So A is not going to work here. Now, on the other hand, is a very strong contrast phrase. And again, this part of the sentence, we are building on essentially the contrast set up in the previous sentence where we say that modern via ferratas are rarely designed to simply reach a summit. So on the other hand is a little bit too strong of a contrast word here, because we already have essentially introduced the contrast, and we're now supporting that with this idea of how these routes are designed. More often actually seems pretty good, because when I go back to the text, I do actually get a sense of some chronology here, right? That we're talking about a change over time, right? As it said in the second sentence, climbing these routes has shifted. So there's a bit of change that has been occurred, right? And now they are rarely designed this way. So if they're rarely designed this way, how are they designed? What is the not rare design that we see? What is the often design, right? More often, if we're not doing this rare thing, what are we doing more often? Well, we're designing the routes this way. So C makes sense. It actually has a little bit elements of that contrast built in, right? We're not doing this, we're doing this instead. So that's good, right? This is rare, this is not rare. Like this is more common, this is more happening more often. So it has that contrast built in, but in a more subtle way than something like B. Or even something like D, nonetheless. Nonetheless is a word of contrast, but again, we don't really want to contrast that strongly with the previous sentence. The previous sentence should amplify the contrast that's been set up, right, between how things used to be done, how that's rare now, versus what we do now that's more common, which is this recreational approach. And so our sentence amplifies that, and C does that, whereas B and D are a little bit too stark contrasts, right? They're a little too strong, a little too clear, whereas we want something that builds on the previous sentence more effectively. And so 31 is C.